Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Talk. We are on episode number 56. Ooh, that's not the one I wanted. Number
There we
56.
go.
And we got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm here by my co host, AJ Reacts 2, and my best friend, Kevin. What is going on, guys?
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, man. Tonight, it's going to get hot. Tonight, it's going to get hot. But yeah, man, we got some things to talk about. It's gonna be a little lengthy, not really, but without further ado, let's get on with the show. In the words of our main host, let's get it, let's go. Starting off with Good Burger 2 has been announced for Paramount Plus. So this was rumored months ago, and ironically, that day was the day I watched the first Good Burger for the first time, so that was funny. But this was announced a while ago, like, oh yeah, Kenan Thompson's working on it, and I said my exact words were, "It is way too late for that," and my exact words now are, "It is way too late for that."
Hmm.
I honestly think this is going to be terrible, and the reason why I say that is because Good Burger came out in a time where you could do things in film and get away with it, and people would write it off as, haha, that's stupid, that's funny, haha. You try to replicate Good Burger now, it's gonna fall on his face. I don't see this being funny at all. And if Coming to America is anything like this, or if this is anything like Coming to America,
Coming to America.
to America, then I just have no interest in seeing this. I just think it's honestly too late. Kevin's never seen Good Burger, but AJ, how do you feel about this?
Um, I agree. That Good Burger was made in a time that it was very it was very aesthetically 90s,
Hmm.
and I feel like bringing it to modern day takes away some of that charm that made Good Burger Good Burger. And if it just depends on the writing. I'm not completely writing it off. It's gonna be straight to streaming, so we won't have to pay to go see it. I might just turn it on one day. It's not anything that I'm, on the top of my priority list, but it's not something I'm offended by. It's like I could see. I mean, this is the age of sequels, reboots, requels, remakes. I'm not surprised that this is happening. I'm not mad at it, but I'm also not gung ho for it. So I'm right there in the middle.
And point of reference, I do like the original Good Burger. I think it's very fun.
Mhm.
It's kind of a stoner movie, kind of not. It's fun though. Um, but yeah, I don't want to say I'm offended by it, but I'm just asking why. Like, you're not gonna put it in theaters, so what? Do you really think people are gonna subscribe to Paramount Plus just to watch this?
Fans of the original probably would.
I don't know, man. But I just wanted to touch on that. Moving on to something that I think is actually worthwhile. Quentin Tarantino announces his final and 10th film. So I think the title of the film is Film Critic, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
or
And
the film critic, something like that.
and it's going to have a female lead. That's what I'm hearing. Did they announce who the lead was rumored to be?
I'm not sure. I didn't see
I
that.
could be wrong about that. I remembered hearing a name. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed by this. Hearing based off what it was, I'm not gonna lie. I expected. I kind of wanted something like Django for his final film, where it was like a big fantasy type thing. Well, not that Django's fantasy, but it's made up. You
Yeah.
know, I wanted something big and bombastic like that. I didn't want something that was along the lines of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which, by the way, is my favorite Tarantino movie. Well, no, Django is. It's a close second. But point is, I love that movie. So don't hear me saying I don't want it to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as a knock. I love that movie, but I'm just saying I wanted something along the lines of maybe Django or even Inglorious Bastards, but maybe not boring. Sorry, not sorry. or Kill Bill, something like that, instead of just something that's kind of realistic. But Tarantino, I hold him up there with Nolan in the sense that all you need is the name and I'm there no matter what. You
Yeah,
know,
same.
AJ thoughts?
Um, man, I was looking forward to this 10th film being Kill Bill Volume 3, Kill Bride.
Yeah, right.
With Zendaya as the little girl, and she kills
If
Uma
Uma Thurman got directed by Tarantino, that title might actually come true because of Tarantino. We won't get into that.
But in all seriousness, the film critic, I don't really know story details, so it's hard to judge it for me. If it is anything like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think it will be good because Quentin Tarantino put it seemed like he put his everything in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He really like cared for the story, cared for the characters and things like that. So
I mean, he
if
puts
it's
his
anything,
everything into everything he makes. I don't think I've seen a single Tarantino movie where I was like, "Oh, he half-assed that."
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I feel like there are some of his films that are like, for example, Reservoir Dogs. That's his very first film, so like we get that, but I feel like the characters in there felt kind of disposable in a way. Um, and I feel like in some of the other films too. I think in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he wrote these characters and directed them in such a way that we cared about them. Even the villains, we kind of were like, when they die, we were like, whoa, like kind of like that. But I don't know. I feel like he's gonna handle this one with care, especially since it's his last film. I think it's gonna be good. I don't doubt him. Tarantino is one of my favorite directors, very very close to my favorite director. So I have faith in it.
I want him to act in this movie. I've been saying that, but I really want him to act because if for those who have not seen From Dusk Till Dawn, he gives a fantastic performance in that movie. And I watching that movie, I was like, damn, bro, why haven't you done more? He shows up in Django and then gets blown up. I was like, oh,
yeah, it's gonna be a cameo if he's in it.
Even in Pulp Fiction, I love him in Pulp Fiction. Kevin, do you have anything just to add to this before we move
on? I wouldn't say it's disappointing because even though Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the only Tarantino film I saw, even though that movie was kind of like of realistic, he made it in a way that was just so stupid and crazy in a good way, but it was just like so all over the place for me. But so I think he'll put that same kind of energy with Film Critic. I wouldn't put too much into that where it's like it'll be like The Fablemans with Steven Spielberg. But it sucks that he's going away because I enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy his other films before I.
You're gonna love Inglourious Basterds.
I've been wanting to see that.
I know you're a war person. You definitely gonna.
Oh yeah.
Inglourious Basterds. You definitely gonna like that. All right. If anyone has anything to add to this Quentin Tarantino conversation, let us know down below. Charles Clayton, what's going on? What's up for me? I flip-flop between Pulp Fiction and Django being my Tarantino. Yeah, Django and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are like tied for me. Moving on. Evil Dead Rise first reactions are catastrophically positive. And I mean catastrophically positive. For those who don't know, I forgot the letters. It was a premiere. It's like SXW or some shit. It's along those lines. There was a film festival that I think they premiered Dungeons and Dragons there too. I could be wrong.
South by Southwest? Is it South by Southwest?
Yes, that is it. So South by Southwest was this weekend, and they premiered Evil Dead Rise. And as soon as I heard, they were seated for Evil Dead Rise, I said, oh shit. And the reactions I woke up to the next morning were satisfying and not surprising. Pretty much every reaction was, yeah, this movie is fucking awesome. It is the Evil Dead movie that we all wanted it to be and more. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were there. And Bruce Campbell, that gentleman, made probably one of my favorite moments of the week last week. So, as a bit of context, they had the premiere, and then I guess they did a Q&A after. Sam Raimi was there, Bruce Campbell was there, the director, and cast were all there. And they had some asshole in the crowd yell and scream, "This movie fucking sucked." To which he was booed out of the building, rightfully so. And then Bruce Campbell stood up and said, "Why are you here? Get the fuck out." To which then they applauded and proceeded to boo him out of the building. Good on you, Mr. Campbell. Because if, number one, if everyone was booing him out of the building, that means he's talking out of his ass and the movie was actually fucking good.
Yeah, he was trolling.
So, not mad about that at all. But
trying to make a scene.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm very happy about this. As you guys know, Evil Dead Rise is my personal favorite, most anticipated movie of the year.
Yeah,
and
as of mine.
It's one of those things. I'm going to be there night one with a packed crowd. I can't wait. I cannot wait. You know, this movie looks so good, and it looks too good not to be at least a strong 4. You know, you just take the horror elements of the first Evil Dead and the Evil Dead 2013, really 89% of that movie, and you just put that together. That to me is a perfect Evil Dead movie. AJ, how do you feel about this?
I'm excited, man, and this just hyped my excitement all the way up even more. I didn't even think that it could go higher, but hearing people say that it's great and amazing, I'm so excited to be there. I'm gonna be there day one too, man. Day one. Thursday night.
Kevin has not seen the Evil Dead movies yet, which is a crime against humanity. We will change that.
Don't worry, it'll happen. It'll happen.
But
that trailer looked amazing when I first saw it. Like that was probably that was like the pinnacle of horror for me, because my experience with horror has primarily been like the 2010s. Yeah. Or not slashers, but the 2010s. This is like as scary as you can get with a horror movie. So many disturbing images, and they're not trying to pretend that they're being funny. And even that one little comedic line with "oh, you know how to lie to kids," it was just like it felt funny, but it wasn't like out of place. Everything else nowadays is just like, oh,
that looks scary. Wait till you see the first one, bro.
You need to watch. I think you will like 2013 a lot. If you like the trailer for this movie, I think you will like 2013 a whole lot.
2013 in the best way is the most kick-ass horror movie I've ever seen in my life. That's the best way I could describe it.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. When I first watched Evil Dead 2013, I didn't sleep for 4 days, didn't eat for like 2. I was like terrified, and that was after I graduated high school. So that's saying something.
2013 probably has one of the most satisfying third acts to a horror movie I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, purely epic.
But as far as everyone loving it, I'm not surprised. Usually when a trailer is garnered that much attention as the first one did, it's going to get a lot of praise from it. You know, we've seen that with a lot of trailers where it's like, as soon as the first trailer came out, and it garnered so much attention from everybody, it tends to get great reviews. So I'm not surprised by this, and it at least soothes me a little bit knowing that it's not going to be bad.
Hell yeah. I never thought this was going to be bad, though, ever.
I didn't think it was either, but I was fooled once by a trailer, so.
Matrix Resurrection.
Yo. Anyway, I was going to ask y'all, well, you haven't seen it, Kevin. Not yet. We'll change that. We'll change that. For sure.
All right. Moving on to our third topic before our 3 big spearheads tonight. Avatar 3 rumored to receive a 9-hour miniseries on Disney Plus.
9 hours, jeez.
Basically 9 episodes. That's what it's saying.
Has to be 9 episodes.
So, for those who don't know, this was a while ago. I think this was when The Way of Water came out. James Cameron had announced, like, oh yeah, the rough cut of Avatar 3 is 9 hours long. And for some reason, they want to make this a reality. Now, Avatar: The Way of Water was very good. I thought it was very overhyped, but it was very good nonetheless. But my biggest issue with that movie was that it felt like a director's cut. There were scenes in that movie where I was like, if you take this out, this movie is not over 3 hours long. So now you're telling me that the next movie we are going to get a director's cut. And I'm just like, why? James Cameron should not be making movies that are not having things cut out. I'm sorry. Sometimes his pacing, even I might get shot for this, even in Terminator 2, which I love, by the end of that movie, I want to pass the fuck out because that movie is insanely long. One of the best action movies ever made, but it is long as shit. What? First of all, why is this happening? I need to know, why is this happening? What is warranting this?
I think my theory, my head theory with this is that James Cameron did also come out and said that, you know, before he cuts the 9 hours down to whatever comes out in theaters, he wants the entire thing VFX. However it gets done, he wants the entire thing VFX before he starts cutting it. So my theory is that Disney does not want to spend all that time putting VFX into all of it and having what's almost 6 hours cut out. They're just like, we want to make some use out of this, so we'll just plop that shit on Disney Plus.
I don't know. This to me is just like, why? It's not necessary. We don't need 9 hours. You're putting like 3 movies into one movie. No movie should be not. And you know, before I get, well, it's not a movie. It's a miniseries, bro. It is a movie cut down to 9 hours. It'd be the same thing which they should have done this, by the way, if they had put Zack Snyder's Justice League in 4 parts on HBO Max and, you know, as a miniseries, which I wanted them to do. I wouldn't call it a fucking miniseries. I'd call it a movie. It is still a movie, just chopped into parts. The same thing with The Hateful Eight on Netflix. It's cut into 3 or 4 different parts, but it's still The Hateful Eight. I rated it as a movie. I didn't rate it as a miniseries. You know, I don't really see the point in this. I read this, I was like, bro, what? Like, it sounded like one of those things that just wasn't real. I was like, what? AJ, do you have anything to add to this?
As someone who loves television, I love TV maybe as much as movies, like equal. So I'm not mad at this, and I think that's how I'm going to watch it. I think I'm gonna watch the miniseries over the movie because I have not seen this movie yet. The more I think about it, kind of the more excited I am to watch it. I loved watching The Hateful Eight in its episodic form.
Me too.
I really wanted to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in episodic form, see how I digest that. And this is different because it was a 3-hour movie and it's about to be a 9-hour movie. That's like different than anything we've ever seen. So I also kind of want to see what they add, what they take away, how it's edited. Is it edited differently for pacing? Is it? I kind of want to see how's the VFX look opposed to the actual film. So I am very intrigued with this. If it doesn't happen, I'm fine with that. I'm not like gung ho for it, but like I'm interested. I'm intrigued. But if it doesn't happen, it's fine.
This was something I wanted to add before we move on to Bel Air. That to me, the magic of Avatar is seeing it on the big screen. That is for me on the big screen. If I had seen Avatar: The Way of Water for the first time at home, Number one, I probably would have fell asleep, but two, I wouldn't be as immersed in it. The Way of Water. While I thought it was overhyped, there's no denying it's one of the most immersive movies I've ever seen in my life, in a theater on a big screen. So them saying, yeah, we're just gonna have it be where like all of this is on Disney Plus. It's like, now I know we're gonna get the theatrical cut and see this, but what if the stuff that's not in the movie is actually better than the theatrical cut? I'm gonna be like, well, I wish I had seen that in the theater. So that to me is kind of puzzling. But
I think that I feel like a lot of the reason why Avatar 3 is as long as that it's 9 hours to begin with, it's probably because there's a lot of world building in it.
dude, we've had two
Because we saw
movies
the
of world building, bro. We don't
yeah,
need
but we're
more
also
world building.
like even James Cameron confirmed out there and said there's a third tribe, which is hilarious that they're essentially making it like an Avatar thing, where the Last Airbender, where there's like four different elements. Because I don't even know what to call the first one, but we had water. Now we're about to get fire. That's like this
Well, no,
insanely different culture.
the first one would be like Earth, kind
I
of.
was air. How else mix between earth and air? But even then, and for this movie, it's like there's going to be a group of fire people that are, from the sounds of it, a completely different culture from the other two, like too far different. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of it is world building. I also felt like Way of Water, there were a lot of other plot threads with the kids, especially, that were kind of left out or rushed to the end, where I'm just like, well, how do we go from point A to point B? Especially with the scientist's daughter, I forgot her name. I was kind of weirded out by her little powers, or not powers, just like her connection with the water, where it's just like, okay, now she can control it, but I'm just like, where did this come from? And the last we saw of her with this connection is like she was just getting to know it, and now she knows how to fully use it. It's just like that felt weird.
That whole character is a plot hole,
bro. So I think there's a lot of plot threads that are continuing into this movie that are kind of unneeded. So I think the final cut will simply be whichever plot threads happen to be the most important in the next movie, and the 9-hour miniseries will just cover them all. So I don't know. I don't think it's necessary.
I was just gonna say, how do you think that this might? Do you think this might fix some of the plot holes? This 9-hour cut might dive into.
I hope you know it is Avatar 3. It's not the Way of Water that we're talking about.
Yeah, but I made the point.
It is Avatar
no, I didn't
3.
know that. I didn't know that.
They said like Avatar 3 is going to have this cut.
Yeah.
It's not the Way of Water.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Honestly, I think the final cut of the movie for the theatrical release, it's probably going to be 3.5 hours. Like I don't see how you have a 9-hour rough cut and cut it to a reasonable size, like 2.5 hours or 3 hours. I feel like that has to be 3.
It won't be reasonable because the Way of Water wasn't even a reasonable runtime. I literally ran out the theater when that movie ended because that's how ready I was for it to be over. And it's not because that movie's bad, it's because it's so fucking long.
But do you feel like if you watched it in episodic form, it could have helped?
Yes, definitely.
That's how I'm looking at this new thing that's coming out. I feel like hour a piece, it'll be easier to digest. You could come back to it if you wanted to. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
I also agree with Tyler that it fixes a lot of the plot holes and like kind of seems to connects the plot threads a lot better. But you also lose the immersiveness of that movie, which is his big selling point. The story is still really good, but the biggest selling point of those movies were it's immersion, it's world building. So you're gonna lose a lot of that magic. So whichever way they bring it to theaters, that's probably gonna be the better version at the end, in my opinion.
If anybody else has thoughts on Avatar 3 being a 9-hour miniseries on Disney Plus, please let us know down below. We are moving on to Bel Air Season 2, Episode 4 review. I've said it for 3 weeks now. and I'm going to say it for a fourth until it changes, which I don't think it will. Bel Air is one of the best shows on television right now, and nobody knows it except the four of us. Alex is not here, but the four of us. People should be arrested for the fact that they are not watching Bel Air. This show is absolutely fantastic. And AJ likes it more than me. When I give it a 4, that's a strong 4. That is an Incredible Hulk size 4. That is a strong damn 4. AJ likes this show more than me, which is fine. But point is, this show is fantastic. Last week we had that incredible episode with the protest, and this week we picked up, and it was essentially it was the aftermath. It was over after this. I was a little bummed out by that, but I was like, okay, that's fine. You know, we're moving along. I think the big thing that happened was one, Will signed with Doc, like that. That's how the episode ended. And the whole episode was mostly a conflict thing with Will, Doc,
Uncle Phil.
Phil, and on Viv.
Yeah.
And I thought this was great. I thought this was all great. All their scenes were all great. You know, I kind of like that. Now, granted, there's still some doubt in me that Doc isn't a little suspicious, but I like that we found out that he actually does run a legit program. I'm glad that it wasn't just a sham. You know, I'm glad that we found out, like, yeah, this is a real place where people train. And it's multiple people. It's not just like 5 people. So I did like that. I think the big negative, well, not big, but it's just like Hillary in this season. I don't know. I feel like they're just giving her stuff to give her stuff to do. Ashley's kind of like that too, but I'm kind of intrigued with what they're doing with Ashley. You know, but Hillary, I'm just like, everything you're doing, it's not bad. You know, and I love Jazz. You know, when she's with Jazz, that's when I'm the most intrigued. But like, I don't know. I'm just like, get back to Will, get back to Carlton, get back to Aunt Viv. You know, these are characters I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in Hillary, to be honest. And I really wasn't interested in her like that in the first season either, to be honest with you. But yeah, that the Jazz thing, I thought it was cool in this episode, but it was a little corny, and I did like that they acknowledged it. They were like, bro, shut up. Like, just act like a normal person, you know. Let's talk about Carlton. Mike Tyson over here, bro. I love this. I was screaming through the phone. Get him, beat his ass, get him. Because they give Carlton so much shit, you know, for no reason. I really like that. Jeffrey. And now I know AJ, he said, like, I want them to move it along with Jeffrey. I wasn't feeling that last week. I'm definitely feeling that now. I don't know where we're going with Jeffrey. I don't know. And then Will had a thing with Jackie, which I liked, which, by the way, I'm a full advocate for. Her and Will to get together. I'm an advocate for that. I don't mind them at all. And I do like the fact that they didn't make it that Jackie double crossed him. It was kind of like she did without knowing that she did. And I like that her purpose is not to hurt Will. That's not her purpose. You know, she's kind of confused by the whole thing. That's what she looked like at the end. And I like that because it would have been so stereotypical if she was like, oh, yeah, I was using you. That way Doc could get your money. You know, yeah, that was pretty much this week's Bel Air. What did you think about Bel Air?
Like you said, with the whole Will, Doc, Phil, and Aunt Viv situation, those episodes or those sequences were the best of the episode. How Aunt Viv kind of went behind Uncle Phil's back and talked to Doc,
That
and
was
he's
crazy.
like, "Why would you do that? We need to be on the same page with Will." And she's like, "You're basically trying to control his life," and I was like, that's right. Why are you trying to do that again? You did that last season. That did not work out for you. So like why are you trying to do that again? Will get suspended for going on top of the roof, putting down the banner, the Black Teachers Matter banner. He gets kicked off of the basketball team, and that's one thing that's why he really is pushing for being with Doc and having him train him and things like that. I 100% believe that Doc is out for his money, not for his best interest at all. But Will kind of got to learn that on his own. He's going to work towards this, and he's kind of got to learn that on his own. Uncle Phil, he does want the best for him, but he doesn't really know how to go about doing that. So that's a struggle right there too. Um, so yeah, everything with that, with Will and Doc and like that intrigues me. The whole thing with Jackie, um, I think Jackie is a very good character. I like her character in this show. Um, I I do want to see them together, but I know that there's this conflict that yeah, she's Doc's niece, and they're kind of trying to coerce him into being on this team, and that's I'm kind of weary of how that's going to end. I feel like after this ends and everything blows up, because it's going to blow up when when he figures out everything. um I don't know if there's going to be a future with him and Jackie, so is this all for nothing? Like, I don't know. So there's that. The thing with Jeffrey, it is dragging its feet. It is. I want to see where this is going. We don't even have like really an inkling of where this is going this season. Maybe something has to do with his son, Jeffrey's son. Maybe. I don't know.
I want to know why. I think this happened last week, but he opened the laptop and tried getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I
what
remember
are
that.
you
And
doing?
yeah, and they never really addressed it again. So it's just like, but
But I feel like in this episode too, something happened, and uh, Uncle Phil was looking at him like,
I think that was in this episode with the laptop.
"No, that was
And
last. That was last week."
you sure? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, Jeffrey was leaving, and Uncle Phil came up to him and was like, "Where you going?" He was
yeah.
like, "I'm handling some
Personal day.
personal business," and he was like, "Okay, well, since when are we not sharing where we're going?" But whatever. So that whole thing, I feel like it needs to pick up the pace. Um, yeah, Hillary, man, I agree. Hillary is her character isn't bad, but it's like some of the situations are just not intriguing, not grabbing me. The whole thing with Jazz this week was better than the stuff with Ivy in the past. I like the stuff with Jazz more than that, but just her personality, like I feel like we need to see some more development with that character. I know that they're working on her arc, her overarching arc or whatever, but I feel like it's taking a while for her to kind of get it together.
And realistically, she's gonna get kicked out that house because you think Ivy's gonna be chill about
The
this.
simply spiked thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think she's gonna get kicked out of the house. I think she's gonna go live with Jazz. They're gonna have some conflict with that. She'll probably end up going back home, moving back in with her parents. But we'll see.
yeah.
I'm just ready for the Ivy stuff to be done. The whole thing with Carlton was amazing. I thought it was great. It brought I think it brought the message of mental health in the Black community to the forefront. And I think that's
Yeah.
very important to talk about, because I think in the Black community, it's something that's kind of looked down on, not really valued, and that's shouldn't be the case. I think that's how it is with a lot of people, a lot of cultures, but in the Black community, I know that that's something that it's becoming more prevalent in society, but I think it just needs to be brought forth even more, and that's what this episode did. He was like, I have anxiety, I have depression, after he beat that kid up. Do I think violence is the answer? No. Do I think that kid deserved it? Yes. So, there's
God, that
that.
kid is so fucking annoying, bro.
He was
Oh
annoying.
my God.
I agree. But I
Not
do
just
think
in this episode, in the other ones too. Last week he was annoying too, and I was like, "Whoa, shut up!"
that was the point with that.
Yeah.
And he pushed Carlton to his breaking point. Carlton already struggles with anxiety and depression and anger, and he's taking medicine for it and stuff like that. And he was supposed to make that speech, and he felt guilt. He felt a lot of guilt, especially from his peers. So that that all that's bottled up, it just came out in anger. Was it the best way to handle that situation? No, obviously, but because he could have got arrested, it could have ruined his future. But things didn't go down that way, so that was good. There was just a scene with Lisa and Carlton in this episode after the whole fight situation. They kind of talked it out, and I felt like a little spark going with Lisa and Carlton. I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. Apparently, they were together in the past, so.
Oh yeah, they were.
Dr. Phil right now.
What's good, Cal? They were together in the beginning of the season, the first season.
Yeah, the first season. Well, they had broken up. They had they were together before the show or whatever, and then like by the first episode they were already broken up, and they had a whole conflict with Will and all that. It was like a love triangle and all that.
Do you think they're gonna get back together?
I think they will, but I don't think they will end up together like in the end. So
all right.
But yeah, so the episode was good, very solid. I was intrigued. I yelled. I got emotional. So it was good.
The best TV gets you emotional.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, this next episode of TV did not get me emotional. It made me want to
got you emotional in a different way.
Mandalorian episode. No, I'm going to spend as little time as humanly possible on this episode, because truthfully, I don't want to talk about this. I am talking about it because if we didn't talk about it this week, and then we talked about next week's episode, which I do think is going to be a banger because it's directed by the great Carl Weathers, it wouldn't make sense. So we have to talk about it. This episode fucking blow. Okay? The first 10 minutes, perfect. Great Mando stuff, which I found ironic that we got this scene and we got the Rogue Squadron movie canceled, because this was essentially a 10-minute Rogue Squadron movie to open an episode of Mandalorian. This was great. I loved this. It was shot very well. This was good stuff. The last 10 minutes of this episode was also good stuff. This is the most important part of the episode. Mando got back. Mando and Bo-Katan, they got back. They went to this. I don't know what to call it. They I don't want to say this place, but they went to a place where there's it's like a temple. There were a bunch of Mandalorians there or whatever, and he was like, "I brought you proof that I bathed in the waters of Mandalore. I brought you a vial of regular water," which I found funny. Me and AJ were saying, "How is that going to prove anything?" And they proved us wrong.
That's Fiji.
Yeah, they proved us wrong.
They did. They proved us wrong. They did.
So she pours it inside this thing, and it was essentially the thing from Harry Potter. It like did some shit, and she was like, "He tells the truth." He is bathed in the waters of Mandalore. You are reinstated in the Mandalore. Everyone, yay! That was awesome.
And since Mando, Din like sunk down to the bottom and Bo-Katan went after him, and inadvertently she bathed in the waters as well, so she was forgiven of all of her, sins against Mandalore. So she's a Mandalorian as well, and I feel like the conflict there is interesting too because she's so like she's lost. That's probably the best way to put it. She's lost. She doesn't really know what to believe anymore. She was very against the traditions of the Mandalorians and how like religious they were, how they took their traditions and everything like that so seriously. But now she's kind of like alone, and all of her partners and things like that, they've died or gone off, and she's so alone now. She feels part of something again, and she loves that feeling. You could tell she really loves that feeling, but also she doesn't necessarily believe like they believe anymore. So she's kind of torn that way, and I love that conflict between them. Are we going to talk about anything in the middle of this episode?
We're about to.
Okay, we're getting there. Okay,
I just wanted to talk about the things that matter.
I get that.
And
so before we move on, I just want to say that I loved the beginning of this episode. It was fantastic.
The beginning was really good.
Me and AJ didn't say a word during that because we were just like, "Yo, this is awesome."
Into it, yeah.
My one gripe with the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes, because those are the only things that mattered. I thought that there was a lot more of a convoluted process than you just go inside, do fuck all in there, and you're just like, hey, you're back.
He told him, bathe in the waters of Mandalore and you'll be reset.
I thought there was more of a mental aspect to it, because we did see Mando get pulled down under the water, and Bo-Katan technically didn't get pulled down. She just went right in there and rescued him from whatever the fuck might have happened. So I thought there was more of a mental aspect to it, but I guess not, or maybe there is, and the effects just hasn't gone through yet. But that was my little gripe. Maybe it'll get explained. Hopefully the middle gets explained. But
okay. I'm gonna try and limit this to 5 minutes because I actually want to talk about Shazam. I don't want to talk about this. For everyone who loved Andor, congratulations. Not only did you get another episode of Andor, but you fucked me too, because now I had to sit through an episode of Andor I didn't ask for. It's funny. I didn't even say it. AJ said it, and I said, yeah. This is, without a doubt, the worst episode of The Mandalorian, of the entire show. I mean, the entire show. Now, granted, there are not many bad episodes in this show. I think there's only 2 I can think of. One in season 2 and one in season 1. And the one in season 1 I didn't even think was that bad. This is truly the only bad episode of this show. I have never been so bored watching Star Wars in my whole life since I first watched The Phantom Menace. I swear on my life. I have never been so bored watching Star Wars. Essentially, what we got was, I'm going to skim through this shit because I truly don't care. Essentially, what we got is some doctor, he was proposing organ cloning, and he gives a speech, blah, 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 moves on. Now, red flag number 1 right there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there a certain war called the Clone War, of which we had human beings cloned to fight? Wasn't there a clone army? If we can clone entire human beings, how the hell can't we clone simple organs? How does that make any sense?
Wasn't there like an ethical issue with that? Because I think they did mention that there's like an ethical issue with it.
If they did, over my head. But that just, I was like, what? Okay, moving on. He then groups with a bunch of Imperial people. Our main girl who's with them says she works for Moff Gideon. I said, ooh, okay, work for Moff Gideon. Diving into how someone who worked for someone so evil, reacted, that could have been really cool. Did we get that in this episode? No. Because that would be interesting. Oh, no. Instead, we had this group of Imperial people reminiscing on the Empire for about 30 minutes. And then they just walk and talk, walk and talk, walk and talk, walk and talk, while sucking on CGI lollipops. Walk and talk, walk and talk. And then they say, oh, we got to go to this Imperial ship to get this. Now, AJ said apparently they went to the Imperial ship so that way this buffoon could get his notes and keep his organ thing going on. I said, okay. I don't know if that's true. If that is true, then AJ was paying attention more than I was. I was gone by the point of this happening in this episode. They go to this ship and they get the thing, and the doctor, the Imperial person's like, oh, I'll watch guard. I said, she's going to turn on him. They walk outside. Oh, no, the Imperial police are here. And of course, they don't point the guns at her. They point the guns at him. And she's like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. They get him in this fucking thing. And it's looking like a VR or whatever. And they're like, oh, we're going to mess with him or something. They're like, oh, you're going to wipe his memory? They're like, no, we're not going to wipe his memory. This isn't the Empire. I'm like,
this isn't the Empire, my boy.
I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what they did to him. I don't care what they did to him. It was just nonsense. And then she's just standing there watching it happen. And then we just come back to Mando. Apparently people loved this episode. There were people that loved this episode. Whatever blue milk or Star Wars drink or crack you're smoking or drinking, please give me some. Because I thought this episode was not good. I thought this episode was written like piss and had the pacing of Gary the Snail on a good day. This was not good. I'm sorry. The worst sin is if this doesn't come back the whole season. That's going to be the worst part. Do I think that's going to happen?
Will.
No. I don't think Jon Favreau's that stupid. But, I mean, I've seen shows where that happened. Stranger Things. It's happened.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at you, the Lost Sister.
I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll let Kevin go.
One of my bigger gripes of that section was the fact that here I'm have to look it up. The episode was called the Convert. So my assumption was that whatever they were at was the Convert. The Convert was not fucking mentioned until the end of the episode. He was just like, "Oh look, it's the Convert." I'm just like, "That's what the episode was called." So you wasted all this time. That you wasted all that time for the episode title to show up at the end. I didn't have an issue with this whole storyline. I don't think that it's going to be completely useless soon. My issue is that we came in and we went. We got some pretty interesting information. We got some pretty interesting things come out of it. But we completely ignored at the end of the episode. And my thought was like, oh yeah, Mando. Oh yeah, we're going somewhere where they won't find us. Okay, we cut back to this place. I'm like, okay, Mando will probably show up at some point. Maybe he has connections. Maybe he has connections with this girl. No, we came in, we went, and then we cut back to Mando going into a completely different area, for that matter. my issue wasn't the fact that thing was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I was very interested to see the whole amnesty project, they called it. I forgot what it was called, where they were trying to convert the Imperial guys, the Empire apologists, back to just reform them, I guess, in a way. I don't know the words to say. I was interested in that, but my issue was the fact that we came in, we went, and Mando made no mention of it. It was like, it would have been fine if there was a character we knew that was a part of this amnesty project, and we still follow somebody we know.
That was my biggest issue with it. I told AJ, I was like, it's not helping that we don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Other than they are Empire.
If you introduce characters, you have to have somebody else to kind of be a familiar face for us. And not
these characters were introduced in the first season, though, but nobody remembers them. Yes, the guy with the glasses, the main character.
He looked familiar, but nobody. I didn't know it was from the first season. I thought
they did a very brief recap.
So that's what that was.
Yeah, that's what that was from season 1. And I was just like, okay. And I had to kind of like look it up after the episode. I was like, do these characters like even matter in the first season? That's why I was like, maybe I need to go back and rewatch this show.
Oh, was he the? I didn't.
He worked for Moff. I think he worked with Moff Gideon in some way.
He was the guy who was experimenting on Grogu, right? In that
I believe
episode
so.
3 thing?
I believe so.
Okay, because I think I'm starting to get that. But even then, it's like you need to have a main character, like someone we can clearly recognize, follow them, to have us a familiar face and make it feel like
if that was the case, why didn't they go in a dialogue of, oh yeah, I experimented on creatures with Moff Gideon or something? Just something. They don't give us anything.
Yeah,
really.
There's nothing familiar for us to come back to. That's the main issue with this episode. It's not the contents of it. It's the fact that it went nowhere. It'll probably go somewhere in episode 4 or somewhere in this season. But right now, there's nothing for us to connect to. You know, it's just
if I get another episode like this, I think I might have an aneurysm. I don't need this in Mandalorian.
So, how I felt about the episode is from his speech up till the heist. I felt like everything was very, very poorly written, because it paced and written, because we were getting information, but we weren't retaining it. At least I wasn't personally, because of the pacing, because of the atmosphere, because of these characters, like how everything was set up. I was not retaining this information as much as I wanted to. Up until the heist, it started getting a little bit better for me. Once they got on the train, once they said, let's do this, we're going to get this information back from the Empire. And then they got to the little area where his research was. I was like, okay, cool. So like things are getting a little bit more interesting. And by this point, I know Tyler was so gone, detached from this episode at this point, but I was like, this episode is getting a little better for me. I don't know if he remembers me saying that, but yes, I was saying this episode is getting a little bit better for me. And then when he got caught, I was like, okay, yeah, now this is going back to bad territory. And they kind of, I believe they wiped his memories with the Mind Flayer machine. It was kind of unclear exactly what they were doing, but she turned up the knob or whatever, and he's, being electrocuted. And I'm just like, okay, so if he loses all of his memories and, she's just eating her little biscuit, like what is this really going to have to do with Mando? And what is this going to have to do for the future of, this season? I don't know. So
I feel like they're going to have Mando. I feel like they're going to have Mando just notice him. It's like, hey, you're the guy that was fucking up Grogu.
And he's going to be like, what? Like, I don't have any memories. Yeah, who are you? And if that's the payoff for this episode, if that's the payoff for this episode, this is truly the worst. One of the worst things from Star Wars that I've seen.
The only way this episode
quite
can feel
honestly.
better is if we get something out of it.
Yeah, and maybe he remembers, he starts to remember things, and then, Mando has to help him do stuff and like that. But if they just kind of do this as a one-off, maybe they were experimenting to see if, how the viewers were going to like this style of episode. And, if they liked it, they're going to make more episodes like this. I don't know.
Which they didn't,
better not.
because it's the lowest rated of the 3 episodes on IMDb right now.
So let's be thankful for that.
If anyone has thoughts on episode 3 of season 3 of Mandalorian, please let us know down below. Okay. For those who have not seen Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and do not want to be spoiled, please exit the venue. We will see you next Sunday.
That the bold assumption that they weren't spoiled already.
Before I talk about this movie, I want to say that I know people are struggling out there. Inflation's a bitch. If anybody wanted to save some money this weekend, I'm here to help you, bro. I'm here to help you. If you did not get a chance to watch Shazam: Fury of the Gods in theaters, you had busy kids, maybe you had school, maybe you're in the hospital or something. I don't know. If you are, get better.
No.
If you were not able to see Shazam: Fury of the Gods and you're heartbroken, I have a very easy way for you to watch this movie. You go on YouTube, on your phone, type in Shazam: Fury of the Gods, trailer 2. You watch it in its entirety, and then you go on Warner Brothers' YouTube page to the TV spot released on Tuesday or Wednesday, and you watch the first 3-5 seconds of that TV spot, and you would have seen the whole movie without credits.
Bro, the theatrics, bro. The theatrics.
At this point, I don't know who's worse, whether it's Sony or Warner Brothers for spoiling movies in their trailers. I want to say Warner Brothers because I feel like let's take a look at Morbius, right? Morbius, they showed the entire movie in the trailer. But there was no big surprises in that movie, realistically. I mean, even if I didn't watch a single trailer, that movie is still horseshit. This movie, and they did the same thing with Black Adam. There was a villain in Black Adam. Spoilers for Black Adam, for those who haven't seen it, which I'm assuming is a lot of you, considering that movie bombed. But Black Adam, they spoiled that Sabak was in the movie. Now, granted, they had released a Funko Pop of Sabak, and that had gone around. I didn't see that. So when he showed up in the trailer, I was like, "Hey ho, what the fuck is that?" And then they just blatantly show him fighting Sabak. The only surprise in that movie that wasn't revealed was Black Adam getting his comic accurate suit, which was already comic accurate, but he got the gold braces. But anyway, I mean, this movie, nothing was a surprise. I'm not even talking about the movie yet. I'll get into that in a second. Nothing in this movie was a surprise. Nothing. And it's not me saying, "Oh, well, I knew everything that was going to happen."
Taste the rainbow.
We'll get into that. That was a surprise. I'll give you that. That was a surprise. Nothing in this movie was a surprise. Nothing that happened in this movie while I was watching it made me go, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." Every single fucking thing that happened in this movie, I saw it coming. When, they even showed the opening scene in the trailer. They just didn't show what happened to those people. But they showed them getting the stick. Then when they were talking like, "Oh, it takes someone they were like, "Oh, when they were like, oh, it takes someone intelligent to wield the power. I was like, it's gonna cut to him saying, "I'm an idiot." Sure enough, it cuts. You know, everything in this movie was just so predictable, and that is why I did not enjoy my time with this movie at all. I want to say I'm in the minority. I'm in the minority here, but I know there are people that like this movie worse than I did, and I give it a 2.5. I did not enjoy this movie really at all. I just sat there like this mainly the whole time. No, that's cool. Okay, pack it up. On to the Flash. Let's go. This movie just did nothing for me. It did nothing. It's something I've seen 18,000 times before. It looked pretty. It had some decent performances. But at the end of the day, I just didn't care. And, you know, that is the norm of DC at this point. I don't care. And maybe it's their fault. Well, not maybe. It is their fault. And I don't even think they care anymore. Clearly, based off the tweet that David Sandberg put out today, which that made me want to lower my score right then and there for the bullshit that came out his mouth today. I did not enjoy Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I thought it was honestly a waste of my time, and it just did nothing for me. It was a movie that to me was stripped of everything that made the first one even remotely enjoyable. Whoever wants to go.
You got it.
I, on the other hand, thoroughly enjoyed Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I think there were definitely issues that I had, mainly the third act. I thought it was very messy, and I personally felt that it was dragged out. The people that I've asked, they don't really feel the same way, but I felt that. And yeah, there were some issues. There were some, effects issues. There were some writing issues, pacing a little bit, but for the most part, I had a fun time. I thought it was genuinely funny. For most comic book movies, I don't think are funny. The comedy misses me, but for this one, personally, I enjoyed the comedy quite a bit. I found myself laughing out loud. Yeah, the characters were, I would say they were good. The villains were better than the first movie's villain, because the first movie's villain was just very one-dimensional. But yeah, I thought it was a solid film. It wasn't the best of the DCEU, but I thought it was pretty solid. It was fun.
This movie is like it came and went. It's the same with the Mandalorian. It came and went. I think, and I told Tyler this while we were on our way home and stuff. This year is going to suffer a lot from the simple fact that these 4 films were made with the idea that James Gunn was not there. That they were going to reset the DCEU to whatever they had originally planned, with their Michael Keaton Batman, with their Supergirl, with their whatever the fuck they was going to do with Superman. These 4 movies were made in that mind. And because James Gunn came in a little bit too late to change much about these movies, it's hard for us to care. Flash, we only care about Flash because we're just wondering how much they're going to reset the DC. That's the only reason why we care about it. If it weren't for that, I guarantee you we would come into that movie saying, okay, that looks cool. Blue Beetle, I don't even know shit about Blue Beetle, so I'll leave that alone. I think that'll be good. And Aquaman 2, whoever, same with Shazam 2. Who the fuck knows right now? But overall, I'm kind of in the same boat with AJ. I really enjoyed the film. The comedy, aside from a few jokes, there were a couple of jokes in there that were a little bit cringe, even for Shazam. But I really enjoyed this movie. My biggest gripe with this movie, and I even had it here, I thought Zachary Levi and I forgot his first name, Asher Angel, I think his full name is. I thought they were both very good, but they played two completely different characters. For two actors who were supposed to be playing the same guy, they completely missed the mark on that. Angel played him as if he had grown up. He is about to turn 18. He's being scared as shit for college. And for one plot thread, he was scared that his mom was he has to leave his foster home. Zachary Levi played him the same way in the first movie, an obnoxious teenager who just got his powers. He didn't mature or anything. There is nothing that felt mature about him. And that's what I didn't very much like. It was like Asher Angel played him as if he grew up. Zachary Levi played him as if he didn't grow up. So that was that. And
I had the same issue with the first film. They kind of felt like two different people.
I did lower my score. I originally had it at a 4 out of 5, or for me, I would have it at 8. But I put it down to 7 because I can't just ignore the fact that the trailers didn't exist. I can't ignore the fact that the state of the DCEU is in shambles. And it kind of made me enter and leave this movie with the sense of, why is this here? The marketing of this movie was fucking horrible. Not only do you barely market it at all, I felt like the marketing, just putting it out there, was fucking
after the first trailer.
Yeah, after the first trailer. Not only that, you spoiled the whole fucking movie. You spoiled the whole fucking thing. You spoiled most of the plot threads. Only one plot thread was missing from that movie, and that was Freddy's storyline. That was it. And then you spoiled the big cameo at the end. It was just like, I can't ignore that. So I put it down at a 7 for that reason. But other than that, I enjoyed this film for what it is.
And Kevin hit the nail on the head. We were walking home, and he was like, I guarantee you, if you didn't see the final trailer and didn't have things spoiled for you, you probably would have enjoyed the movie more. I was like, yes, I would have. That's my point. How do you enjoy something that, this is gonna sound stupid for movies that I've seen 1,000 times before, but how do you enjoy a movie you've never seen before? How do you enjoy that, knowing everything that's gonna happen before you walk in? That's like me watching Scream, knowing who the killer is before walking in. I'm not gonna get that enjoyment. I'm not gonna, like, that'd be like walking into Scream, knowing who the killers are, what the motivation is, and every single person that dies in the movie, and how they die in the movie. How am I gonna get enjoyment out of it? I'm just gonna sit there and watch it. And that's why I can't get enjoyment out of this movie. Is this movie a bad movie? No, it's very fine. But I can't sit here and say I enjoyed it because I knew everything that was going to happen. I can't watch a movie like that. And for those that say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't watch trailers. Well, clown, I saw this trailer for every fucking movie humanly possible that I saw in the theater. And as a movie reviewer, I see a lot of movies in the theater. So it's really not that hard to avoid. Number 2, this TV spot showing, we're in spoilers now, showing fucking Wonder Woman in the movie was shoved down everybody's throat. I saw it, Kevin saw it, AJ saw it, John saw it, even Sean fucking Chandler saw it. Someone who I don't think really watches trailers like that or pays attention to things like that. And it didn't help that the first 2 seconds of that TV spot shows Wonder Woman in it. Do you know how long it takes to scroll past something on Twitter? It takes a minimum of 3. You're fucked. As soon as you see it, you're fucked.
The worst part about that TV spot, and someone pointed out in the TikTok, and I was laughing my ass off because I didn't see the TikTok. I only got spoiled with the fact that she was there. It showed Wonder Woman, and I think you were going to touch on that. It showed Wonder Woman, and in the background or in the TV spot, you see Shazam have a dialogue with Wonder Woman, and she was just like, "Oh, stick to saving people, kid," or shit like that. In the movie, it was pointed out very blatantly, "Oh yeah, Billy died." Like shit.
Yeah.
Now, even without knowing that Wonder Woman was there, I feel like even if I entered the movie knowing Wonder Woman was gonna be there, like I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know Wonder Woman was there. I was like, he's not gonna die. They're gonna pull some shit out their ass and be like, oh yeah, he's gonna survive. I legitimately thought that was gonna be the case. But even then, it's like, how do you feel the emotion of a death scene when you already know that Wonder Woman will eventually show up with Shazam there.
Regarding the Wonder Woman TV spot, I believe this with all my heart that WB looked at the projected money that this movie was going to make.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
And they said this movie is going to make dirt. So how are we going to get butts in seats? How? What does this movie have to offer, visually, that we can put in a TV spot in the first 3 seconds so people can't scroll away? Let's put that scene with Gal Gadot. We got to do that. So they did that, and the people that kind of cared about this movie were just like, you're spoiling it, and the people that didn't care about this movie was like, oh, Gal Gadot's there, I'm still not seeing it.
Which by the way, apparently the director and I think the one who plays Billy, Asher Angel, they both went on Twitter and said, don't watch the TV spot.
Yeah, I think that was the studio. That was definitely the studio doing that. It's definitely a studio doing that, trying to get butts in seats desperately.
I don't get it.
And it didn't work because the money this movie made.
So this movie was made on AJ knows the numbers, but I'm gonna say this movie was made on a budget of $125 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. This
movie, as of today, right now, is at a gross of $65 million. That's one statistic. Bombed immediately. Bombed. You want to know another statistic? The opening weekend.
Yeah, I think I know.
The opening weekend of Morbius. No, okay. This weekend This weekend in the United States. Shazam made $30.5 million. The opening weekend of Morbius was $39 million.
That's a crazy ass stuff, bro.
Way to go, Sony.
Now,
Sony won.
Morbius
won. They won.
Now, do I think the overall gross is going to be higher than Morbius? No. I mean,
John Wick comes out next week. Let's not say that.
Yeah, and then Dungeons and Dragons the next week. So.
People would rather watch Dungeons and Dragons.
Scream right now is still gonna make money because
Scream
is
too.
a horror movie.
Sheesh.
It might happen.
Good job, Warner Brothers.
And Mario is coming out, so
yeah,
of course, yeah.
Good job, Warner Brothers.
Doomed, bro. This movie is doomed.
With back-to-back movies, you fucking bombed and failed. And you tried the same thing with Black Adam by spoiling the whole movie in the fucking trailer. And people wonder why. Oh, why does nobody care about DC movies anymore? Because they don't care. Mm-hmm. AJ said it to me a while ago with the Wonder Woman thing. He was like, why if they don't care, why should we care?
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care.
Especially with this stint of the DCEU.
I have never seen, and now for the people that want to say, oh, well, the MCU is making the same movie every time. I can't disagree at this point. But there is still effort put into those movies. They still put effort into those movies. Not as many people are excited for them, but people are excited for them. When has it now? I think Ant-Man made its budget back, right? I could be wrong about that.
I believe so at this point. It did.
I know it didn't.
Or close to it.
I know it didn't blow up the box office, but
it didn't.
It still made its money back. People still showed up for that movie. Nobody showed up for this movie because nobody cares. And this is what happens when you fucking announce that a universe is going to be annihilated and destroyed before these movies come out. Yeah. That would be like if we had this whole year of the MCU coming out and Feige said, oh, after this year, yeah, the MCU is done. It's gone. These characters are not going to come back. None of this is going to matter. Before we even saw these movies. It would make us say, so why do I care?
Yeah, why am I going to pay my money? People work hard. And like you said, inflation. So why am I going to pay my money to go see a movie that's not going to matter?
And it doesn't help that you're having post-credit scenes teasing characters that aren't going to show up again, more than likely.
Or we don't know, like either one.
Well, we know one that's coming back because she's married to the head of DC.
That's not a character that people care about, though. That is not. I don't think
she's still coming back.
I guess.
And you know, why are you not talking about the movie? I want to talk about the things that actually matter. This movie does not matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm not saying it because I didn't like the movie. I'm saying this movie does not matter. We will not be thinking about this movie by the time The Flash comes out. I promise you we won't.
We won't think about this movie by the time John Wick comes out.
Yeah, by next week.
I won't be thinking about this movie by tomorrow morning when I'm eating my Starbucks. I will not be caring about this movie.
DC is in a state where this year, as I've said it before, we are in limbo. Shazam, Flash, Blue Beetle, Aquaman. Those 4 movies are in limbo right now. How they're going to matter in the DCU, who the fuck knows right now? I don't think
I'm telling you, if The Flash is not as good as we've heard, legitimately, I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm done.
Even before the new chapter?
Well, no, not that, obviously. I'm talking about with the rest of the shit that we got coming out this year. I
will give faith.
I won't care.
I will give more faith.
Blue Beetle, I have faith because of the talent behind it.
Okay, I'm going to say this. It's a little bit on the contrary of what we've been saying. But I truly believe that when all this is blown over, the whole thing about the trailer, the whole thing about the TV spot, about the reboots or, you know, rehashing these characters, I think you're going to like this movie more on the rewatch.
I do think I like this movie on a rewatch more.
I think you will like it more on the rewatch because, like you said, it's not a bad movie, but it's got so much going on around it that it's just like, why do I care? I get that. And I understand that. That's very valid. That's very valid. But like as a film itself, it's not bad, but it's hard to care. I totally get that. So
I don't know. It's insanely difficult being a DC fan. Watching movies that you know will not matter by the time you go to sleep the next day. If we did not have Nerd Talk, I swear on my life, I would not be thinking about this movie right now.
I think that James Gunn will come out at Comic-Con because I think The Flash will be a month old by that point, probably. Mm-hmm. My hope is that he comes out at Comic-Con if DC has a panel there and say, now that Flash came out and you know that the universe is reset to however the fuck it did, now we are going to explain how all of our previous characters will connect. Because we know Superman is practically reset. Batman will practically be reset. But what about Wonder Woman? What about Shazam? What about Aquaman? Especially Aquaman with that movie coming out after. How will those characters connect? Are they going to come back with a different actor? Which I think they probably could because I did enjoy their stories. With Shazam, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. The only emphasis especially with Shazam is that we don't know if it matters. So I think that we need a status update on those 3 characters. Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman.
What we should have gotten was a confirmation before this movie came out.
Yeah.
So we could actually put to rest all of our questions and
I think James Gunn
enjoy this movie for what it was.
I think James Gunn had a little clip in his announcement video of oh yeah, Shazam's gonna come back after. But then he saw Zachary Levi's comments about the vaccine shit. He was like, take that shit out. We can't confirm this shit right
now. No, he literally said that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I know it doesn't matter, but I feel like the studio is just take that shit out. But at Comic-Con, I hope we get that. A status update on Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Aquaman. Are they going to matter? Are they going to be completely reset like Superman and Batman? Are they just going to be the same guys, but just new actors? Or they're going to have like a soft reboot where it's like, which in my opinion should happen, where it's like those stories happened, but they're not in the same universe. So it's like Aquaman had his beef with his brothers in the first movie. It happened, but not in the same way the first movie showed. So it's like you can watch the first movie just thinking about the major plot points, and they come into his reintroduction with that same mindset. The issue with the status updates of those three characters is that the way that DC Chapter 1 is mapped out right now, we're probably not going to see a payoff for any of that until like 2028, 2029 at best.
Jesus.
Like at best, we won't know about that until by that point. Like, let's be real. You have so many projects coming out, and you're just like, we're not going to see any payoff for that.
You're right. You're right. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible.
There's one thing I want to talk about with the movie itself, because you spent so much talking about the outside noise.
No, we'll get into the movie right now.
Yeah. It felt like Billy's character was kind of screeched to a halt for me, where it's like in the beginning you set up a storyline where it's like he's scared of losing everybody, and then we completely ignore that plot point. Like legitimately, we ignore that. We didn't see anything about him feeling bad about it until the start of the third act when he talks with his mom, which again, his mom had nothing to do with this movie until that point. She was just sad. Like, oh, he can't call me mom. Oh my god, he can't call me mom. And then we get a payoff to that where he's just like, love you, mom. I'm just like, okay, but we didn't see anything.
My life is a mess. He called me by my first name. I don't know what to do with myself.
That's my gripe with Shazam, with Billy's character, where it's like we start off with an interesting plot point because when they started saying, oh yeah, I'm going to lose everybody, I'm going to be aged out of the foster system, I'm like, this is something that's working, you know? He's about to age out of the foster system. I don't know why he has these irrational fears, because last I checked, one of them already did age out of the foster system, and she's still there. So
but she was saying that she was kind of struggling. They were struggling to pay the bills, and she had to get a job and stuff like that.
That plot point got negated as soon as they were like, "Oh yeah, we bought a house. You bought a house? Oh, okay, right. All right, we ignore that point."
I want to talk about the comedy. I'll talk about my favorite scene in the movie that was comedy. So there's this little floating pen thing. Seriously, there is a floating pen in this movie.
Steve.
I thought it was gonna. When I heard that, oh yeah, it's like a floating pen. I think AJ told me like, oh yeah, there's a pen that's alive. I was like, is it gonna have like eyeballs?
I told you that.
But no, I saw it, and sure enough, the thing that doesn't utter a single word in this movie is the funniest thing in this movie. I enjoyed this little thing. I thought it was funny. The funniest scene in the movie for me was when they had to write the letter. When they did write the letter, and they sent the letter to the villains, and they read it, and it had all the errors in it. They were like, oh, should I
what is a Gatorade?
That was probably the funniest line in the whole movie.
What is this Gatorade?
That was funny. That was really funny. Jack Dylan Grazer gives a performance that this movie does not deserve. He was very good in this movie. I liked him a lot. Everything with him and the Wizard was my favorite part of the movie. I liked all that stuff with them. I enjoyed him and the Wizard while not needing to be there. I enjoyed the Wizard and him a lot. Their chemistry was really good. And I can't think of the actor right now, but this has to be the first movie I've ever seen where he does not die within the first hour of the movie. The only other movie I can think of is Furious 7, where he's the villain, and he dies in that movie. This is the only movie I've ever seen where the man starts a movie alive and ends the movie alive. I was waiting for the movie to end and him to get struck by lightning or something and die.
Even in the first Shazam, he starts the movie alive and ends the movie, and he's dead.
Dies. Dies
As soon as he gets powers. When he showed up all pimped out and shit, I was like, "Hey, he survived. Good job." I thought the movie looked really pretty. This movie had a bigger budget than the first movie, and it showed. I think the scope of the movie being bigger was nice. I liked the dragon thing. That was my favorite antagonist in the movie, to be honest. I thought the dragon was really cool. I liked how yeah, he is. He's a really good actor. He is. His name always blanks me, but he is a good actor. I liked how it was like it paralyzes you off fear. I was like, that's really cool. That's pretty cool. And I like that we get the scene later in the movie with Freddy, which was probably one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite part of the movie, where it was about to kill Rachel Ziegler's character and him, and it's doing the fear thingy, and he's fighting it off, to go save her. I was like, that's really cool. I like that.
Was it weird for me that he felt more like main character than Billy did?
He did.
Like Freddy had an entire arc, the entire movie. We see him fighting off 2 different types of psychological warfare. Billy did none of that.
And that's what I was saying. Why was the movie the everything that happened with Freddy in this movie? It should have been Billy. That's what I was saying. That would have made the movie so much better to me. Instead of just having it be, well, obviously you tweak some things at the end, but for the most part, have it be that Billy is the one that has his power stripped away. And, rework some things in there and give him a better arc rather than just have it be where he's like, yeah, we got to get everybody together. And then essentially he leads to everyone losing their powers and shit. I don't know. I really honestly have... I guess we could talk about the mid-credit scenes, of which they don't matter. We get James Gunn's wife and the fat dude from Peacemaker.
Diebeard.
Diebeard. And they show up and essentially they're like, oh yeah, Waller wants to recruit you for the Justice Society. Now I did like that she said justice and he thought he was going to say Justice League. And she was like, Justice Society. That was funny. But then immediately I was like, what? Justice Society? What the fuck? Like, why? Why would you... Shazam does not fit on that team at all. That first of all, that's not even a fucking team, if I'm going to be honest with you, because Dr. Fate is dead, Black Adam's not coming back, and then I'm pretty sure those other twerps aren't coming back either. You'll probably get Hawkman back, but that's it. What? That's not a team. That's a D-rate Justice League. That's what my friend said. He's like, they're recruiting for a D-rate Justice League. When you could just put him on the Justice League. He is a part of the Justice League in the comics. He's in the Justice League in the DCAU. Well, I don't know why they're so focused on making the... Now, granted, I guarantee you they made this movie with the assumption of, hey, we're gonna get more Black Adam stuff, right? Why are they so obsessed with having Shazam and Black Adam be like its own like bubble? It's like, remember how Guardians was before like Infinity War, when it was kind of like its own thing? Kind of. That's what I feel like they're trying to do with this. They're trying to make it where it's like, nah, Shazam and Black Adam can only like be in their own little space. But at the same time, it's not, because you got Wonder Woman showing up and Superman showing up.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And it doesn't help that I didn't think this post-credit scene was all that good, to be honest. It just kept going and going and going and going. I was like, oh, shut the fuck up. You made your point already, bro.
The Avengers Society? I like that one.
Oh, my God. And then the post-credit scene might have been worse. they essentially, it's the same post-credit scene from the first movie. He literally says, he's like, "You're gonna do this again?" I've really said. I mean, we didn't talk about the one thing that honestly made me want to just walk out the theater entirely, but I guess we'll talk about that, and then you guys can talk about whatever you want. Let's talk about Skittles.
I told Tyler this before you continue. I told Tyler this. I feel like Warner Brothers is so disastrously broke that Skittles paid them to just be in the movie. That they're just like, we'll give you extra budget if you want to. Just give us a major plot point in the movie. I genuinely feel like that's why that was there.
So, bit of context. In the movie, they say the only way to defeat these creatures that are coming out of the ground is unicorns. That was one of the main things. And immediately when they said unicorns, and Darla was like, "Oh, well, what are they like?" And he was like, "Oh, things that are sweet." I was like, okay, she's going to
Ambrosia.
Skittles, because there was a joke about Skittles earlier in the movie. And this was also funny. They capture Helen Mirren, and then Darla only gives her yellow Skittles, and I found that absolutely hilarious, because for those who don't know, the yellow candy 9 out of 10 times is the nastiest candy of the bunch. So I found that funny when she was picking out only the yellow Skittles. I was like, that's fucking funny. So immediately when he was like, "Oh yeah, they like sweet stuff," I was like, okay, they're gonna use the Skittles. That's funny. So the unicorns show up and they throw the Skittles. Now, I had heard before I saw this movie, everyone was like, "There's a Skittles commercial in this movie. What the fuck was this?" And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And I sent it to AJ, and I was like, "What?" He was like, "Bro." And I was like, okay. So she threw the Skittle. Like, I knew I knew most of what was gonna happen. She threw the Skittles and they ate the Skittles, and I was like, okay, that's funny. You know, like I expected that to happen. Then she says, "Taste the rainbow."
She whispers it, bro. She says, "Taste the rainbow."
And I said, legitimately, that was my reaction to that. I said, "Oh my God, they did not just fucking do that." Dude, I looked at Kevin. I don't know if Kevin had the same reaction, but I just looked at him and he just was like fucking motionless. He was like, dude. And then the worst part is they fucking do it again in the movie. They're riding the unicorns and they're like, "Taste the rainbow." I'm like, what? Like, this is real. Somebody wrote this. This is real. I could not believe it. I don't think I've ever been that embarrassed watching a movie before in my life. Now, for those that want to say, "Oh, well, it was supposed to be funny. Why are you taking it so seriously?" It wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny.
Cringy.
It was
cringy.
so cringe. And what makes it worse is that it's essentially an advertisement. A cringe line, okay, there are several in this movie. But I was like, okay, whatever. The fact that it's essentially a fucking commercial, it just makes it 10 times worse. I was just like, oh my God, they fucking just did that. That, to me, when that happened, I was like,
I wonder how much Skittles sales went up after this movie.
I genuinely hope that we get a number on that. Oh yeah, Skittles
I need a
sales
statistic.
30%. We find out next week. Skittles sales.
But nobody went to go see this movie, so it probably didn't move.
For point of reference, I ate Twizzlers, not Skittles, at my local movie theater. Fuck Skittles. Twizzlers are where it's at. Okay.
I hope when the stock market reopens, we're just gonna hear that Skittles just astronomically went up, just for no reason at all. Everyone's just like, "What the fuck is happening?"
I've said everything I want to say about this movie. If you guys want to touch on things, go right ahead.
Um, yeah. I wanted to talk about the villains. I wanted to get a little bit deeper into that.
I wish the
I
movie got deeper into the villains, but
I think their motivation was very well done. Because I don't believe that we've seen this where their home was taken away from them, so they want to basically create a new one. And
General
then
Zod.
they kind of have like this conflict with each other, like, do we create this new world on Earth, or do we create this new world in a separate place? And there was some conflict there between the sisters, and they weren't all on the same page, so I liked that a lot.
I
Helen
didn't. My bad. I didn't mention this. She was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. I really liked her in the movie a lot.
Was she the adult actress?
Yeah,
or-
she was the adult
Yes.
actress for Darla.
She was amazing.
Are those kittens? But yeah, so I really enjoyed Helen Mirren and Rachel Ziegler quite a bit. Now when it comes to Lucy Liu, I feel like her villain was a lot more one-dimensional than the other two. I think the other ones had depth and had some humanity to them. Regarding Helen Mirren, of course, Rachel Ziegler's character had some humanity to her. But I kind of like how that arc went a little bit. As far as the dragon, I thought the dragon was cool. It just felt like it was a little OP. And I don't know. I thought the design was cool though. Moving on to the characters, like we were saying, I don't think there was enough Billy. There was a lot of Shazam, but not enough Billy. The rest of the kids, though, I think they had more of a balanced time as adult, the superhero version of themselves and the kid versions of themselves. So yeah, I wish there was more Billy. I wish his storyline, as far as the abandonment, his fear of abandonment, was more to the forefront. I think they kind of paralleled that with the superhero stuff, because yes, they're not, his family isn't always going to be there. They'll be there in spirit, but it doesn't mean that they've abandoned him. So he kind of had to figure that out throughout the film, and I think that worked as a parallel. So getting into the effects, the green screen was very noticeable, but I wouldn't say that it was bad the entire time. There were some spots that were better than others, but the green screen was very noticeable, especially with Rachel Ziegler's powers. I enjoyed her powers. I liked how she got to shift things, and that was dope. But I don't know if I loved like how it looked. I think it could have looked better. But yeah,
Also different.
Uh-huh.
I liked her character, but she had one of the dumbest moments in the movie. She
As far as
transports herself backwards. Oh, sorry.
Mhm. No, I was just saying, as far as what?
Like she Lucy Liu's character was gonna
Oh,
take away her powers.
I know what you're
She
talking
transports herself backwards. I'm like, that's good. She got herself out of trouble, and she stayed in the same position, and she
Yeah.
only went parallel. She didn't go any other direction of that thing. She went parallel with the blast, and she took it. She saw that shit.
She did.
And you're just like,
she said,
just
"Rude,
took
what's
that
that?" I was like, "Move, you have time, move."
Yeah,
Like I knew that was gonna happen, but I was like, "Move!" It's not moving like the Flash. It's moving slow.
I'm gonna say everything that happened between them on the rooftop, saying goodbye to each other, and the dome fight. If you guys know what I'm referencing,
Yes.
I didn't like. I didn't like the unicorn stuff. I didn't care for that at all. The Skittle stuff was unbelievably cringe. I think the monsters were unnecessary. It made it
And ugly.
the third. They were. So were the seven deadly sins. But
They didn't look any different to me. They were just
yeah, they
different
looked very.
colors.
They did
Well,
look
no, not
very
different colors.
similar.
They different designs. They were the same color, and that was my issue. I'm like, is it really that hard to make them different colors? Like when the unicorns ate the Skittles, I expected them to turn like pink or white or something. No, they're just boring black unicorns. I'm like, not that I love unicorns or anything. Like unicorns are cool, but the things that I like about unicorns are the
Yes,
fact of
my little
how
pony outside.
My Little Pony.
how like how distinct and unique there are. I've never seen a black unicorn before in my life. I've only seen white and multicolored unicorns, and that's what makes them cool. Who the hell wants to care about a black unicorn?
The point of the unicorns in this movie, not that I'm advocating for this, because I did not like them, but I felt like the whole thing with the unicorns, where they're supposed to be like scary and like the king of all the beasts or whatever, and I felt like that color was probably the best to represent that. But I don't know. That's my take on it. But like I said, yeah, everything up until the dome fight, I really enjoyed the dome fight.
That was cool.
That was really cool to me, where he was actually getting burned. There were actually stakes there. And this kind of reminded me of the Mando thing, because I was getting into the whole story with the heist in Mando, and I was getting really invested in the fight here. And then Billy died.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's how they're gonna wrap up Shazam. This is how they're gonna wrap this up, moving forward
when they
into
when they buried him, I said, "Oh,
yeah, exactly. That's why, because I was like, oh, he's gonna come back. The wizard's gonna come and do his little magic dust. It was like, no, the staff
that
is
scene,
out of juice,
man. That scene where Freddy found him,
Freddy. I was getting misty, bro. I was getting misty eyed. I'm telling you,
that was probably the best scene in the movie. I really, really like that scene. I was like,
even without knowing that Wonder Woman is in the movie, that was the worst way to bring him back. You're just like, oh yeah, only a god can bring this staff back, and then all of a sudden, Wonder Woman. How the hell did you know?
I think the mistake that they made was the fact that. Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
You said, how does she know? That's facts.
You knew. I mean, she probably knew that he died, baby. But how did you know that?
Well,
how did you know to access the?
She probably saw the fucking dome shit going on. It was all over.
Man, if you seen that, you could have came and helped us.
How did she access? Exactly. First of all,
no, they were in the dome. They couldn't get there. She couldn't get in there.
How did she get over to where she was?
No,
to get the
my
staff?
issue with. Listen, my issue with Wonder Woman is the simple fact that it was just like, how the fuck did you know how to access the God realm? Like, nothing in the previous two Wonder Woman movies, nothing in this movie led us to the fact that anyone outside of Shazam family and all of them could know where to access the God realm. Yeah. And you're telling me that Wonder Woman knew?
I did not find this funny at all. I thought this was actually awful. This is what I was about to talk about. If that scene was not in the movie, it would have been way unpredictable that it would have been Wonder Woman. Like, would you have called it if that scene wasn't in the movie with the sorcerer's head being on her body? Would you have been like, oh, it's gonna be Wonder Woman? Kevin, I'm asking.
Oh, what you're talking about in the end?
Yes.
Oh, no, because honestly, I wasn't really thinking about Wonder Woman up until that point. I was just like, I thought her cameo was like a post-credit scene, like Superman. So in my head, I was just like, oh yeah, she's gonna show up because I didn't see the TV spot. Like I only saw her.
As soon as all this was going down, at this point, thanks to Warner Brothers, I was kind of just doing a countdown. When they were like, "Oh yeah, we need a god to do this."
That was cool to hear that theme in
Yes,
the
it
theater.
was.
That was dope.
Yes, it was.
But I felt that
I wish
part
it
was
was
so
better.
half-assed.
Yeah,
That
it
part was so half-assed.
And then when you hear after the movie, you hear that it wasn't even Gal Gadot. It was her. It was a double, and
No,
they
I heard that it
her
was
face. Oh, it was her.
I
No,
heard.
it wasn't.
I saw a tweet from the director. I saw a tweet from the director that they got somebody else to kind of like know how they were going to film the scene because Gal Gadot's schedule was like super tight. So when they brought her on, they were like, they had to know how the fuck they were going to do this, like beat for beat. They're like, all right, Gal Gadot, come here, do this, do that. So I think so. That's why they had that image. That's what I saw a tweet from somebody. I think it was the director, where he was just like, oh yeah, we needed to know how we were going to film this scene before we got Gal Gadot because she was really tight on the schedule.
Probably
That's
would
what I
definitely not know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you guys have anything else to talk about?
I did want to bring up this point because I'm just not thinking about it. The biggest issue with this movie is that in the first act, you bring up all these interesting plot points. Freddy wanting to do his own thing. Really, much of the family wants to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Billy is scared of letting everybody go. Like he's really like shit-faced. He does not want to let anybody go. And then the second act, realistically, if I'm going to be honest, it plays out almost exactly as the first movie. Whereas like things were happening, villain does this, hero does that. They're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. It feels ignored. It ignored every plot point that they're going to go through. And then at the end, we're just like, oh yeah, here's the plot point. And the reason why it works in the first Shazam is that there wasn't a whole lot of plot points to come back to. It was really just Billy wanting to find his mom. And we saw that a little bit, but it was primarily him learning powers of Shazam. And then we move forward. And then we move back to that plot point. And it works, but it was just that one point. Yeah. And in this movie, you brought up a plot point with Freddy, which was the only plot point that followed through in the second act. Billy's entire arc in this movie, and some little extra things here and there. And then the second act plays out exactly like the first movie, and then we have to come back to all these other plot points. So I felt like it was hurt by the fact that we just ignore a lot of the arc for Billy. And I also felt, to your point about the monsters and the unicorns and all that, the issue with that and how it compares with Seven Deadly Sins is that with the Seven Deadly Sins, we still had scenes with other heroes trying to help out. In this movie, they had no powers to work with. They had Skittles. That's all they had. And then we barely came back to them. They came out, gotten the Skittles, gotten the unicorns on their side. He's just like, taste the rainbow, motherfucker. And then we ignored that for the rest of the movie. The next time we cut back to them, they already just hold everybody up into the center. And we're just like, that's it. And I doubt that's all the monsters in that movie.
That Skittles scene might be the worst scene in the DCEU that's not in Wonder Woman 84 or Justice League.
That has to be. I feel like there's something.
There has to be something.
I even would take Martha over that because the execution of it is goofy, but the concept is so like well thought of that I can defend that. Something fell. Do you guys have anything else?
I think we're done. I think we're done talking about it. Unless Kevin has more to say.
All right. Give me 1 second. Okay. If anybody has seen Shazam Fury of the Gods on the replay and wants to drop any spoiler-filled thoughts, please spoil away in the comment section. And from there, we are going to move on to a DCEU ranking, which feels worthless at this point, but figured that we would do a DCEU ranking. I haven't ranked these movies really ever, so it's nice to rank these. I'm gonna go first. So At number 13 is it's this Justice League. Easy. I mean, one of the worst like experiences a movie has ever been through to get made, and then the movie we get isn't even that good anyway. It's a poor excuse for what we got much later, and it's just a movie that it's to me it's the definition of getting kicked in the nuts for 2 hours. That's what that movie is. At number 12 is going to be Wonder Woman 84. This movie is a fucking abomination. And I couldn't be happier that Patty Jenkins is no longer with DC. Number 11 is going to be, unfortunately, Shazam Fury of the Gods. I just don't care for this movie. I really don't. Number 10 is going to be Birds of Prey. This is a movie that there are things I like about it a lot, and there are things that get on my nerves with this movie. I've watched it so many times trying to like it, and I just, at this point, wave the white flag and say it's not for me. But there are things to admire about it. Number 9 is going to be a movie that kind of grew a little, kind of. Suicide Squad 2016. I hear the what from a lot of people, but I don't know. I agree. Let's get it out of the way. The third act of this movie is horrible. I mean, horrible. But the first 2 acts of this movie to me are not terrible. I actually like them a lot, and it is a fun movie overall to watch. I do enjoy that movie. Number 8 is going to be Black Adam. Yes, I like Black Adam more than a lot of the movies in the DCEU. I did not think Black Adam was bad. Did I think it was average? Yes. But I did not think this movie was bad. I enjoyed The Rock in it. I liked the action a lot. Too bad that this movie does not matter. Number 7 is going to be Wonder Woman. I really like this movie, but to me, some of the writing is really weird, and the third act to me is honestly atrocious. I don't like Ares in this movie, and I hate the third act, but the Nomad's Land scene is the shit. Number 6 is going to be Man of Steel. I love this movie. I love it. From here on out, these are movies that I honestly love. It's so good. Oh, but there's too much destruction in the third act. Shut up, okay? This movie is amazing. Henry Cavill was an amazing Superman, and Zod is a beast. Number 5 is going to be Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, some might think it's low. That again, I love these movies from here on out. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a fantastic movie. I just don't think it's very rewatchable in its entirety, that is. But this is everything we should have gotten in 2017. You know, we should have had some things cut out, but overall, this is a great movie. It is a great Justice League movie. Number 4 is going to be the first Shazam. I really, really love this movie. I do. We just watched it a couple days ago, again, before Fury of the Gods. I really like this movie. Number 3 is going to be BVS Ultimate Edition. I love this movie. Sue me. I love this movie. The Ultimate Edition. The theatrical edition is horseshit. The Ultimate Edition is where it's at. I love this movie. This movie is amazing. Number 2 is going to be Aquaman. I love this movie so much. This to me is one of my favorite comic book movies ever. I think it's literally a comic book come to life. I love Jason Momoa. I love Black Manta in this movie. The third act in this movie is awesome. And I wish I could be excited for The Lost Kingdom, but I'm not. And of course, number 1 is going to be The Suicide Squad. Probably one of my favorite movies ever, period. I absolutely adore this movie. It's honestly a perfect movie for me. I love it. That is my ranking of the DC EU.
Did you say Man of Steel? Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
AJ, you're up.
Kevin, you go. I'm still organizing my stuff.
Did you get yours too?
I want to go get my stuff too. Okay. Because I got some cool stuff too.
Kevin,
Now,
go ahead.
legitimate, to be honest with everyone here, other than the stuff that came out pre-pandemic movies, I did not see since the theatrical movies. So a lot of my opinions on these movies, aside from Shazam, other than that, a lot of these movies are kind of skewed. Where it's just like I have very vague memories of them.
Look at them.
I am not going to count Birds of Prey because that is the only DCEU movie that I have not seen.
What?
So we'll leave that there.
How did you not see that? I could have sworn you saw that.
I did not. You wanted to see it. I did not. It didn't look interesting for the trailers.
You were AJ with that one. That's one of his favorite movies of all time, bro. You think I'm joking?
I can tell by the way he turned. Anyway, we'll go for number 12. Justice League, it's fucking horrible.
Justice League,
yeah, it's Justice League anyway. It's fucking horrible. Even as a movie, even not even as a movie. Just even as anything, it's just fucking horrible.
Not anything.
And just thinking about what it took to get to that point with all the reshoots, that just made the movie even worse. With all the shitty experiences that Gal Gadot had, the shitty experience that Ben Affleck has came out with, it's fucking horrible. I feel bad for anyone that had to undergo that reshoot process. And Joss Whedon, he made the Avengers, but he tarnished his legacy at that point.
Say that shit again.
At this point, it's just called the Avengers. We're not calling it Joss Whedon's The Avengers. It's just the Avengers. Next up is Wonder Woman 84. I'm going to be honest, I completely forgot about this movie. This movie is there. It came. It was not good. So that's probably why I didn't remember it all that much.
No, it's funny. We went back when I was doing reviews on my channel. We reviewed this movie and said it was good.
No, did we?
Yes, we did. We definitely said this movie was good.
If I did, I probably said it was okay. But Wonder Woman, it came and went. Number 10, I have Black Adam. It's fine. That's what I called it. I called it fine. It was fun. Hawkman and Dr. Fate were easily the only great parts about the movie. Dwayne Johnson was good, but it was very obvious that it became another Dwayne Johnson movie where he just self-inserted himself into this role. And it's ironic coming from the guy who openly said that he been wanting to create this Black Adam movie for almost a decade at that point. So it's pretty embarrassing that this is what he came out with. That's me. Suicide Squad 2016 is very underrated. Even though I have it at 9, it's very underrated. Even when I first saw it, I really enjoyed it. Aside from the third act, because I really like the chemistry with Will Smith and all the other and all of them. I legitimately forgot her name, Margot Robbie. I really loved the chemistry between those two, along with everyone else in the movie. So, too bad the third act sucked and just the plot was just weird all over the place, especially with Joker. Joker was fucking awful.
Lord.
After that, I have Shazam: Fury of the Gods. This is another movie. The same with Black Adam. It came, it went. Who even fucking knows right now? But it's still a fun movie. I really enjoyed it, even after everything I said just now. But it was fun. Now, I did not watch the Ultimate Edition, so this is why I have it as low as I did. Batman v Superman. It was boring to all fucking hell. I came out of that movie with a friend of mine in theater, and I was like, that movie fucking was tiring. I went through that movie, I was just like, what are we doing? There's so much.
I can't relate. When I saw that movie when it first came out, I fucking loved it. Even the theatrical, I was like, yo, that movie was fire, bro.
Honestly, I think it was because of the fact that movie was marketed as Batman v Superman the entire way through, where up until that point, I was just like, all right, come on, let's get this rolling. Come on. These guys hate each other, but there's no reason for them to fight until Lex Luthor gaslighted the fuck out of Superman. And that's honestly what I felt from now that I'm remembering it. But again, this was like 6-7 years ago. Next up, I have Wonder Woman. I enjoyed it. It was fun, especially after the Justice League thing. I was like, okay, it's good to have a fun movie again. But you know, my opinion of it
Wonder Woman
kind
came out
of
before
worsened.
Justice League, bro.
It did.
Aquaman was the one that
Really?
came out after.
I thought it came out after, but I digress. I didn't think less of this movie after it came out. I think it was because stuff was happening too much. It felt like a Doctor Strange movie to me, where it's just like, okay, it was going, just kind of jumping through montages and shit, and then we get to the final part, which wasn't all that exciting. I think it was because of the lighting. Because I did remember it being very dark in that movie. After that, I have Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think this movie primarily suffered off the fact that it was too long. 4 hours. It's painfully long. But I still enjoyed it. I think it was a lot of fun. A huge improvement from the first Justice League. And I really would have wanted to see a world where Zack Snyder got to complete his vision, whatever it was. I really would have been very interested in that. After that, I have the first Shazam. It's the charm of this movie. It's the charm of that movie. Just knowing that you got a kid who's deep into superheroes, getting superpowers, and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? And he's just having so much fucking fun with it, and I love it. I love the charm of this movie. I wish they could have had that charm in the second movie, even as teenagers. Like, even as teenagers or young adults, you could have had a better way of showing some really good charm with that movie, but they didn't. So that's why Shazam is as high as it was. Next up, I got Man of Steel. This is a very interesting take on Superman that Zack Snyder went with, because Superman is always that very bright character. He's that character that you look up to. He is like literally the symbol of hope for a lot of comic book readers, animated movie watchers. Just anywhere you go, you think of Superman as something the opposite of what they went with in Man of Steel. So I think for that, it was a very interesting direction that he took, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very good movie, and that's my thoughts on that. Next up, I got Aquaman. It's fucking fun. Jason Momoa was hilarious as Aquaman. I think he took that role and made it into his own. So I think that, and it looked amazing. I think this is the best version of Atlantis we've got. Because
4K, bro.
Atlantis looks amazing in that movie. It sucks that we're probably not going to get that version in Little Mermaid. We're going to be honest, because Little Mermaid looks dark as shit. But with Aquaman, it's bright, it's colorful, and that's what I love about this movie. It feels very fun to go through. And at the top is the Suicide Squad. James Gunn is a fucking he put up a masterclass in this movie. In a state of dismay in the DCEU, he came out with a fucking banger. And I will absolutely love this movie. One of my favorite comic book movies of all time. And yeah, I just fucking love that movie. And that's it.
AJ?
Funnily enough, I couldn't find my Birds of Prey. But,
where's your steelbook
it was on
I
my
was
ass,
looking
right?
for it. I could not find it, so that won't be here. But I'll do all of them, and I'm gonna be as short and concise as possible. I'm gonna try to say one good thing about each film and one bad thing about each film, or one thing I don't love about it. So, starting with the bottom, this film is not good at all. Patty Jenkins should be ashamed of herself. And one bad thing is
I had to pick one.
if I had to pick one, it took a really, really long time for the action to get going. And one great thing is the steelbook. I love the way the steelbook looks.
You don't understand. The last time we watched that movie, bro, oh my god.
All right. Next up is Justice League. This movie,
Mostly?
yeah. So this movie has. I actually don't hate the action in this movie. I think the action is okay, and pretty much everything else is bad. So I'll say the lines they're written very cringily. Next
Do
is
you talk to fish?
yo Suicide Squad, the
I love
2016
that
version.
Steelbook.
Steelbook is dope. One good thing about it is I like the chemistry between the characters. One bad thing is the villains aren't great. Are not good. Next is Black Adam. I like how this movie looks. Characters could be better. Next, this is low. I know this is low for y'all, but it's gonna be Aquaman.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Aquaman is visually.
You think that's low? Wait till
stunning.
you see where Birds of Prey is at.
Yeah.
Or the other way around.
Aquaman is visually stunning, but I do find Jason Momoa to be cringy sometimes. Okay, moving on to the next one is Wonder Woman. I like this movie. I think it has gone down in score over some rewatches, but I still find it to be a solid film. I like Steve Trevor a lot in this movie,
Yes.
and Ares is not a great villain in this movie. So that's my one good, one bad.
Well, when you watch the 2009 Wonder Woman movie and you watch that, you're gonna be like, bro,
No, I've
is
seen
like,
it.
yeah, bro, that's like
Yeah.
Ares cosplay, bro. That's not even the same
exactly.
realm.
Exactly. I know. Next is Shazam, the first Shazam. I think it might have stayed the same on this rewatch. I just rewatched it for Fury of the Gods. And I think
It went up.
it stayed the same, actually. But I think I found some other things I didn't really love about it. But I love the family. The characters are great in this movie. But one thing I would say isn't so good is the villain. I don't really like the villain in this movie. I think he's very one-dimensional.
I feel like Shazam has a piss poor rogues gallery at this point.
I mean, at this point, but the Sisters of Atlas are not even in the comics, so
That's true.
I don't even
Maybe
know.
that's why they tried. They're like, we're gonna make up our own villains, and they still
Yeah.
managed to make bad villains.
I was just like, man. Next is Batman v Superman. I disliked this movie very heavily when I first watched it. Then I watched the Ultimate Edition. I was like, I still don't like it. And then I got the 4K for this Ultimate Edition. I said, this movie is dope. I don't know what I was drinking or smoking or whatever. I was, in denial. This movie is dope. Cinematography is fantastic in this movie. But some of the lines, Martha, why did you say that name? I was just like, okay, man. Dialogue is not always great. Next is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This movie is long, and that might be one of my negatives. I know people are like, you watch, you binge TV shows. Like, why can't you, sit there and watch a 4-hour movie? Like, I don't know. It's something different about it. I can't really explain it. It's
It don't
different
stop.
It
Even
don't
though that
stop.
movie's broken up in the parts, it don't stop.
It don't. It doesn't. Yeah. But this movie is fantastic, though. Like, there's no denying that it is better written, better filmed, better. Everything is better in this movie rather than the Justice League. So, Zack Snyder's great movie. Next is Man of Steel. This movie is fantastic. Don't let nobody tell you any different. This movie is amazing. Superman. This is how I want my Superman. If I'm crossing my fingers and my toes with James Gunn Superman, man, I don't want him to be jokey and carry on goofily. I want him to be taken seriously. I know James Gunn can do it, so do it, please. One thing about this movie, it's kind of grainy. I don't really love that. Next is The Suicide Squad. This movie is fantastic. James Gunn. I was just talking about James Gunn. He knows how to write characters, man. The characters are amazing. The chemistry between them are great. Some of the jokes last a little too long, though. And last but not least is Birds of Prey. I don't have my still, but I don't know where it is. I gotta find it. But Birds of Prey is my number one, which is, I don't think anybody else is number one. I'm different. I'm built different. It's okay. I love Harley Quinn. That character is mesmerizing to me, not just because it's Margot Robbie. I always liked Harley Quinn, even in the cartoons. I just think she's fascinating, sometimes even more fascinating than the Joker. Don't at me. And something I would say might be a negative is in the end, they finally become the Birds of Prey in the end of the movie. I would have liked to see more of that throughout the movie. And that is my list.
Okay.
Of the DCEU.
Needs to put his ranking, so we'll go through his and then we'll pack it on up. Number 13, Wonder Woman 84. I know he corrected himself, but Justice League is number 12. 11 is Suicide Squad 2016. Number 10 is Fury of the Gods. 9 is Black Adam. 8 is Shazam. 7 is Birds of Prey. 6 is Aquaman. 5 is BVS Ultimate Edition. 4 is The Suicide Squad. He corrected himself, but number 3 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 2 is Wonder Woman.
Wow.
That's pretty high.
Wow.
It is.
And number 1 is Man of Steel. All right.
I forgot to insert Fury of the Gods because I don't have that on physical yet. But I put that in between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and I like it more than Aquaman. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. Sorry to end it on that note, but
it's okay. We're gonna get on out of here. Thank you to everyone who was participating in the chat. Next week we will be back. So we are not doing Nerd Talk on Tuesdays anymore because The Last of Us has concluded. And quite frankly, we were getting tired of it. So we will be, for the most part, regularly doing it on Sundays. We'll drop some new stuff here and there if we honestly feel like it and we're free. But more often than not, it will be every Sunday. So look forward to that. And next Sunday, we will be back in these chairs at 8 p.m. talking about Baba Yaga. John Wick Chapter 4 spoiler talk will be next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. All of our links to our channels and all whatnot are in our bio. Please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. If you're interested in watching alongs, live streams, and Blu-ray hunting videos, you're in the right place. Please leave a like once again and subscribe, and we will see you next week for another episode of Nerd Talk. Everyone have a great night.